How's it going? My name's Tim. Welcome back to my shop, and this is part 2 of my Morris chair build. If you haven't watched the first part, go ahead and click the link up over here, and you can see the first part of it. And again, these are highlights from my Instagram stories, so if you're not following me on Instagram, go ahead and do that. That's where I post most of my work. So let's get started and pick up where we left off last time. Okay, so I finished up the mortises on both of the top rails, actually. So now I have two kind of leg half sub-assemblies, I guess. The next step is to do the bottom rails, which are actually quite a bit more complicated than the tops. And I'll show you what I mean by that in a second. But I'm pretty excited to get to this point. I am certainly not the fastest worker in the world, but to do this in just a couple weeks, I'm pretty excited about that. All right, and here is the bottom side rail. So it is sloped from front to back, so it gives the chair that nice sloped back feel, but it also means that the tenons are on an angle, so it's not square like the top one is. And they're also through tenons, so they will pop out the front and the back. So I still haven't quite figured out how to do a straight tenon with an angled shoulder, I guess. I guess that's how it's going to work. But we will figure it out. So I'm working on the tenons for the bottom side rails, and they are through tenons, so they need to be basically perfect. So I'm using the router plane to go ahead and trim them up and make them nice and pretty. Dog in her normal spot again. It's a good thing I don't run out of scrap wood, right, Iris? Okay, and there is the first bottom rail done. It's not quite as complicated as I was thinking. So we have the angled tenons, but it's square to the leg. I used the shoulder of the tenon and then just added a square there to make sure that everything matched up. So right about like that. And the harder part probably is going to be getting this mortise through the leg perfectly square. And everybody's going to see this right in the front, so that has to be perfect. All right, and with just a little bit of finessing, there is my first through tenon, and I'm pretty excited about how it came out actually. Okay, and there is a completed, well, almost completed side leg sub-assembly. So I got the full bottom rail in, the through tenons on both sides, and I actually couldn't be happier with the way those turned out. They look very nice. One's a little tight, one's a little loose, but I guess that's sort of par for the course. And the last step for the sub-assembly is to go ahead and add in the vertical slats. I think there's 5 of them, 4 or 5 of them. So some more mortise and tenons on those. That should be fun. And then we can work on the top arm, which is also a point that I'm a little bit nervous to do, but we should be able to do it. So there we go. I'm excited. So I'm working on the mortise for the second leg assembly, and my mortise wound up just a little wide for some reason. So that is a good reason to keep these tenon cheeks. So what I can do when I glue it up is just wedge that in there and fill that gap. Okay, and there is the second leg subassembly. So we got 2 leg subassemblies, and this was my last mortise and tenon joint, and I think it's probably the best one of the lot. And I just finished up the tenons on the back rail, and this is my my tenon trimming kit. I posted it the other day, but just thought I would do a quick video of it. So a lot of people like to get that sort of off the saw fit, and I aim for that too, but I actually don't mind trimming the tenons. I mean, I'm never really in a hurry to get things done. I don't really have a time frame or anything, which is nice. So I don't mind using all of the tools to trim them up and get them to be pristine, really. They're so cute when they're asleep. Okay, and hard to get in the camera shot, but there is the back rail all done. Mortise and tenoned into the back legs, and those are through mortises as well, or through tenons as well. So it is starting to look much more like a chair. Okay, and spent a little time today getting the side slats all milled up and the front rail there, and I just need to hit it with a plane just to remove some of the planer snipe, and I should be ready to get them in. Okay, and I'm just working on cleaning up some of these boards, so I should note that I'm not actually four-squaring any of these. I did use the jointer and the planer to get a reference face and a reference edge, and that's really all I care about, and then ran it through the planer to put it down to thickness. And I'm really just using the jointer plane just to clean up some of the marks. So you can see my jointer leaves these kind of ridges in the surface. So I'm just taking a few swipes with the plane just to get rid of those, and then there's some planer snipe on the other side that I'll get rid of. But yeah, so it's a couple minutes per board, not too bad, and I got what, 10-15 to do, so you know, it takes about half an hour to do them all. Okay, and all of the side slats are done being planed, and all the machine marks are gone. I'm going through and just marking each one of them with a number, because it may look like they're all the exact same, but because of the slope to the bottom rail, the ones in the back are actually longer than the ones in the front. So I need to make sure that they're all marked very closely, just so I don't mess anything up. And in case you're wondering, I'm actually cutting the tenons on these side slats. I'm using the skew rabbet plane for it. I find it easier for those, just taking off 1/8 of an inch there. It's not really worth sawing, so I just use the skew rabbet plane. And speaking of this plane, does anybody else have a problem trying to figure out what to do with their hands on this plane? The handles on the knob is just, I find it completely useless. Okay, and I feel kind of bad actually that I was so hard on this tool, but I really do like the skew rabbet plane for cutting tenons. It may be really finicky to set up, and you have to constantly check for square, which is why I have the square there. But the cleanup is actually minimal, so I mean it just provides this really nice finish to the tenons. It also makes a bunch of very fun shavings. Okay, just like that, there we go. They are done. Well, actually I still have to trim the width, but that was pretty quick. And a quick test fit of the side slats. That looks so good. I am so excited. Just need to mark them now and then cut them to length. So I'm just cutting these side slats to match the bottom angle. And this is one of those cuts that with a handsaw is pretty much exactly the same as cutting it completely square. You're just sawing to the line, but with a machine it would probably take quite a while to get that jig set up. It's like a 3 or 5 degree angle. And just like that, the side slats are all cut to length. You can see that each one is just a little bit shorter than the last. And the next step is just cutting the tenons on this side, and I actually have not figured out how I'm going to do that yet. I might just use a saw and split them out, but we will find out. And here's a setup that I decided on for the tenons for these side slats. So I am using the routing block plane, and I'm just kind of following the fence along, and I'll go down to the tenon line. And the reason being, I could have just sawed them all out, but the reason being is the cleanup on this method is basically non-existent. The tenons are super clean, and you don't have to waste time using the chisel or anything like that. So I could have sawed them out, but there would be a lot more cleanup. The routing block plane, this one anyway, has a nicker as well, so going across the grain isn't a problem. Also makes these pretty fun, fun shavings. And there's the completed tenon right off the plane, so it's super clean, no cleanup necessary. Okay, and 5 side slats done, and just need to do the mortises in the bases now. Another quick test fit up, just looks so good. I am very, very excited.